Hello and welcome to Maggie Mumbles. My name is Maggie, and on this channel I mumble about the things that are interesting to me, usually something to do with witchcraft, spirituality, and personal development, and my thoughts about these things. If that sounds interesting to you, if you want to learn more about witchcraft, then please make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and hit the bell for all notifications. And also, I would really appreciate it if you feel so inclined to like the video as we go along. Now this is part 2 of a 4-part video in the Enwitching Challenge series, so breaking up the 30-day Enwitching Challenge up into individual parts, and then each of those I seem to have a lot to say, so I'm breaking the videos up into smaller chunks that are a little bit more digestible. So if you missed part 1, then make sure that you go back and watch it. It'd probably give you a little bit more context for this video. That video, I talked about the importance of skepticism in your witchcraft practice, and I also talked about mental health and some tips for noticing if you're experiencing mental health issues, as well as other people who might be in your community, and some ideas for how to keep yourself safe and also help others if you are capable of doing so. Make sure you go back and watch that video when you get the chance, and I will pass it off to Maggie from the past and Maggie from even further back as we continue reacting to videos in the Enwitching Challenge. So take it away. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about mental illness and how it relates to the witchcraft community. So keep in mind that I'm not a professional. I have these opinions, and they are informed opinions. They are based in personal experiences. I am not a professional psychiatrist or psychologist or have any sort of formal education. So do keep that in mind, that my opinions are just that. They are opinions. It's okay to disagree or even to get angry at me based on what I say in this video. That's totally okay. It means that you're thinking. It means that you are thinking critically about the information that is presented to you. I'm just going to talk a little bit about this because I do think it is really important. And you might not have thought about it yet in your witchcraft journey. So in Western society, and really all around the world, in all societies, there is this idea that mental illness is taboo. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to see it. We don't want to admit when we are affected by it or when people we know are affected by it. So we hide it under the rug and we forget that it exists. I think it's a little bit less taboo today than it was even 5 years ago when I filmed this. I think there's a lot more support surrounding at least talking about the importance of mental health. It's still not as accessible as it should be. Just like with all healthcare, it should be something that insurance covers. A lot of insurance doesn't cover mental health care. And then of course a lot of people don't even have access to good insurance, let alone mental health insurance, therapy, and things like that. But I do think it's better, especially with services like online texting styles of therapy that are a lot less expensive, and you still get that mental health support that you would get from like going to see a therapist in person. So I think it's a little bit better than it was 5 years ago when I was talking about this. It's still a little bit taboo, and there's still not as much support as there should be. There's a statistic that says that 25% of the population in the United States has experienced a mental illness at some point in their life. And the statistic is similar in other countries that I looked up. But I actually feel like this statistic is low. I am not a professional, as I said, but I feel like everyone experiences some form of mental illness at some point or another, and in some form or another, whether it's depression or anxiety or something else. And I think that because of this stigma of having a mental health issue, so very few people seek help professionally. I think this is still true. Like I said in this video, still 5 years later, I am not a professional. I'm not a girl.
Not a girl. I'm not a girl.
I don't have any expertise in this. This is just my opinion and observation of my experience of the world and the things that I've heard other people say about their experience of the world. It's likely that this statistic of 25% of people experience mental health issues. At the same time, a lot of the people that I interact with online and also in person have mental health issues. So my sphere of experience is maybe out of proportion with other people. So maybe there are people in the world who don't even know anybody who has had mental health issues, and they have not had any, and they surround themselves with mentally healthy people. So it could just be my perspective, and my experience is through being surrounded by a lot of people with mental health issues. So it could be skewed one way, but I don't know. Who knows?
I also think that there are people who, instead of turning to Western medicine and psychological help from a professional who can help in that way, people turn to spirituality and religions instead. So the statistic might be lower because of people turning to these other forms of healing. And I'm not saying that your spirituality cannot heal a mental illness. I think that it can, but there is definitely a place for Western medicine, especially for really severe levels of mental illness.
So I think that that is an explanation for why this statistic might be lower. And it would be that, you know, a therapist or a psychologist or psychiatrist or whoever might be treating a mental health issue would report their patients, and that would contribute to the statistic. Whereas a priest or a spiritual teacher, they might not necessarily report that as part of the statistic. I think what I said is important for what I was talking about before. That's kind of a weird thing because I'm talking about like me in this video and also me in like present time. Anyway, what I said in the video alludes to what I was talking about here today, that people turn to like witchcraft and spirituality and religion for mental wellness. And so that also might be why a lot of the people that I interact with who are witches have experienced mental health issues, because a lot of people who have mental health issues become witches. It's not obviously everybody, not everybody who is a witch experiences mental illness, but I think it might be a common denominator.
So, you know, people turn to witchcraft in order to reach a level of mental health that they can be happy with, just as people turn to Christianity or other religions when they are in a time of hardship. So there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that it can be really healing for some people. But I do, again, think that there's a time and a place when Western medicine is necessary. And I have seen problems arise in my communities or in friends' communities when people don't seek the help that they need. And I also think that the magical community, the community of witches, is often too accepting and accommodating of every level of mental health, because we are on the fringe. We are not accepted by society by and large. People think that we're a little bit nuts. I think a lot of people in the witchcraft community and in the magical community, the pagan community, feel as if they need to accept anyone who identifies as one of us and take them exactly as they come. And I think sometimes we're a little afraid to tell someone when what they are saying is ridiculous or worse, harmful. I mean, I'm a person who believes in spirits, and I believe in magic, and I believe that my thoughts create my reality. So who am I to say to someone else that they are nuts, or that they're taking something too far? Who am I? Well, like, where is that line?
So what I'm getting at with this statement, and I wouldn't necessarily use the word nuts now as a descriptor. I think that that's a little bit harsh. Qualifying that in my next statement, that it's taking something too far, is more accurate. When you already have a fringe belief that isn't accepted by the mainstream, it feels like you have to accept every fringe belief. Because like I said, where do you draw the line of what's too fringe?
The problem is when nobody calls bullshit, nobody says to stop, that's when things get taken too far. And people with severe problems end up being accepted into communities or groups where they can cause harm to others or to themselves. And they end up not getting the professional help and treatment that they really need. And there are several things that could potentially happen when an untreated person enters a community. And they may have a breakdown when people don't accept their delusions, or they feel as if they are being attacked. They may threaten to drive people away. Anyone who questions them, they may threaten to exile them, especially if they're a person in a leadership role who has the ability to exile someone from a community. They may try to physically hurt someone, they may verbally abuse someone, they may magically attack people, and these are people that they once treated as friends and family, and they may hurt themselves or threaten to hurt themselves. So whatever happens when somebody who is untreated but needs treatment enters these communities, whatever happens, it's not ideal.
Like I have said this whole time, but when I recorded this, this was well before a lot of the really terrible things have happened with QAnon, and there's a lot of overlap with that conspiracy theory and a lot of spiritual beliefs. The way I think about QAnon is like a big tent conspiracy theory where it's like, oh, you believe starseeds or UFOs, cool, you're welcome here. You believe that Jewish people are reptilian aliens that are here to destroy us, cool, you're welcome here. Oh, you believe in the Great Reset where the whole world is going to be reset and the people who have already ascended into 5D or whatever are going to get to start over and everyone else is going to die or disappear or get tortured, or I mean, I don't know all the beliefs. My point is that there's a lot of beliefs that are welcome into this overarching conspiracy theory. And there's a lot of people who had huge followings on social media who were able to spread their beliefs to a ton of people. Even some Facebook groups that I was part of at this time when I recorded the original video, the admins of that group or the moderators of that group started to believe in certain conspiracy theories, or at least became more vocal about them around 2018, 2019, 2020, particularly 2020. And the stuff with like coronavirus as well and the pandemic, there's a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding that, and that was part of the witchcraft community because of the healing aspect, not believing in Western medicine and only trusting in herbalism and traditional medicine. So because these people had huge followings, they were able to spread that message really far. And some of these groups had people following them for forever. Some of these accounts on Instagram, on Twitter, certain subreddits had people who had been in them for a long time, and so people really trusted the leaders. And so when these beliefs started to infiltrate those groups and spread within those groups where people really trusted the leader, there was a lot of, I don't want to say that it was purposeful manipulation, but there was manipulation and brainwashing that happened because of that level of trust within these spaces. And again, I don't want to say that this happened maliciously or with bad intention. I think a lot of people spread these beliefs with good intention because they believed these things with strong convictions and they thought they were helping the people they were sharing it with. I think there were cases where it might have been malicious, but I don't want to use a blanket statement and say that that happened for everybody. People who are more susceptible to conspiracy thinking tend to have mental illnesses, and they're not being treated for those things. Again, I don't want to use a blanket statement because not everybody who believes in conspiracy theories has severe mental health issues that are untreated, but it is a common factor. This is a hard video to film. This video came from a time before I noticed this huge shift. And now here we are, you know, almost 3 years after the pandemic began, when these conspiracy theories really spread. And that's not to say that these conspiracy theories didn't exist before this. There were tons of things that existed before, but one common factor with conspiracy theories is that there is a huge amount of uncertainty. And so the pandemic created a perfect storm of uncertainty, misinformation, distrust in institutions, that led to a massive spread of conspiracy theories within the witchcraft community, within the spirituality community, but also beyond that. It affected everybody because this was a worldwide event. So I got a little bit off topic about what I was talking about in this video specifically, but it's just making me think because of this. It's just interesting that I recorded this before all of that happened, and now I'm looking back on it with a different set of eyes from a lot more research into conspiracy theories and harmful ideologies and things like that.
So what can you do about this? Because I want to give you tools so that you know what to do when something like this happens in your communities, is to inform yourself about mental health. Maybe something that you thought was normal is actually not normal, and there's a very simple and easy solution or way to help that, whether it's you or someone you know. So admit to yourself if you have a problem, if you're the one who's suffering from mental health issues, admit it to yourself and then seek professional help and guidance to deal with these issues that are affecting you and probably affecting those who are close to you. But if it's someone else, if you see someone else in your community, just gently confront that person about their issues. Ask if they have sought help or if they plan to seek help, and offer your support. But the next thing is that if the person denies that there is a problem, if the person denies the help, then all you can do is walk away and leave them alone. And of course, offer your support if it is still safe to be around that person, but remember that your safety is also important. And if they are in a position where they can hurt you, then it might be best to call the authorities or their family if they're not part of your family, because forced mental health treatment is only an option for family members and professionals, and it's still considered pretty shaky ethics in the legal system to force mental health treatment on another person. So if someone doesn't want help, there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to accept that they have that choice, that they can make that choice, and at that point, that's when you take your safety into consideration, because they don't have to accept the help if they don't want it. Just you have to respect their decision either way.
So I probably wouldn't suggest calling the authorities at this point. Also, post a lot of the things that we've seen with the BLM movement. Black people have been telling us, and people of color have been telling us forever, that calling the police is not the right solution. Now I'm much more educated on that. I didn't have that same perspective when I filmed this video. Calling the police, I said the authorities, and I think the only logical assumption is that I would mean the police. So especially if it's a person of color involved, calling the police is probably not the best solution. The problem is that police officers don't have training for mental health care, and so that it could introduce danger to the situation that doesn't need to be there. So it's better to call a mental health professional and see what they say. I agree the forced mental health care is not helpful, and actually I think it can be, I would say that it's actually harmful. People need to make that decision on their own. I watched a video about Eugenia Cooney recently. It's in French, but the subtitles are very good. Anyway, I watched this video. If you're not familiar with Eugenia Cooney, she is clearly a person who has anorexia, which is a mental health disorder. She was forced into care for treatment, but the facility that she went to traumatized her. A lot of people suspect that that really influenced her ability to heal from her anorexia, to get into recovery for her anorexia. And who knows what would have happened if she hadn't done that. The video that I mentioned suggested that I think she actually talked to Eugenia, and she said that she was planning to go into treatment on her own, but it was going to take a couple months. And that's just accurate for getting that kind of treatment. It takes a little while to get into a good treatment facility. We can't know for sure what would have happened if she hadn't been forced into treatment, if she would have gone to this other chosen treatment facility. But it's really sad that being forced into it likely has led to where she is now, which is in a place of denial. That's just an example of what I'm talking about. What I said back then reminded me of this video that I watched, and I'll link that below if you're interested, because I thought it was the most fair and compassionate analysis of her situation that I had seen. I think that's all that I would say in response to that section of this video. So let's go ahead and move on to the next. But that'll have to wait until part 3 comes out. This is the end of part 2 of the Healthy Skepticism lesson or presentation. So thank you so much for watching with me until the end. I really appreciate that. And if you are here still, then please give me a thumbs up and make sure that you're subscribed to this channel so that you don't miss part 3 and 4 when they come out. Part 3, we will be talking about the conspiracy theory triangle of ranking conspiracy theories, basically. Again, thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.